your soon and coming return. So we just praise you. We thank you, Lord. Just do your will and have us accomplish, Lord, what you'd have us to do. So I just praise you and thank you, Lord, that we would leave here today more on fire, more convicted, more committed, more submitted, more in love with you than when we came here this evening. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, welcome to Exodus chapters 12 through 16. Now, I got some notes here. But I got to tell you this. Unless you have notes of your own, I'm not going to email you my notes. So you're not going to sit there and say, I'll just get Chick's notes. That's not how it works. You read ahead. You show me whatever notes you got. I don't care what kind of chicken scratch you got, okay? You show me some notes, I'll give you my notes. You don't have notes? Well, you're still not going to have notes because you're not going to have my notes. Because I put time putting these notes together, okay? You put some time in putting your notes together, I'll give you my notes because I'll share with you. But that's what we're doing. We're sharing notes, right? I'm not sharing my flyers, but I'm sharing the notes. You guys got that? So read ahead. For those of you listening online, stop the tape, stop the CD, stop whatever. We're doing Exodus chapters 12 through 16. But here we go. So I'm expecting you guys to read ahead, be prepared, bring a Bible, because we're going to have a Bible study here, and share the notes here. You guys ready? Here's your notes. Let's go with it. I'll give you some outlines right here for Exodus chapter 12. You've seen here, like again, and I'm only talking to you that read ahead because you understand what I'm talking about. The rest of you, you'll pick something up. But here we know in chapter 12, we see the ordinances, we see the Passover, we see the things that are being instituted here, and about a very particular thing. Now again, this is before the law. If you've read ahead in Genesis and Exodus and Leviticus, Numbers and Deuteronomy, you know that the law is going to be given later at Mount Sinai. We're going to get to that portion later. And again, it's frequently mentioned throughout the New Testament about the Passover. There's going to be a memorial. If you're taking notes on your own, there's going to be a memorial. There's going to be something. Understand this, in the millennial kingdom, there will be sacrifices going on. On this side of the cross, it's pointing to the cross. In the millennial kingdom, and forevermore and ever eternity, it's on the other side of the cross as a memorial. Now, there's some things that we're going to be doing tonight. We're going to be taking communion tonight, the Lord's Supper. That's how we know he's from the Midwest, because it's not the Lord's dinner, it's the Lord's Supper. And we know the Lord's Supper, that we're going to partake of that, and that's a lasting memorial to do this in remembrance of what he's done. That's what a memorial is. But God is establishing, setting up something that they would be able to do. The killing, the eating of the Paschal or the Passover lamb. We see that the sprinkling of the blood upon the doorpost. Now, if you've been taking some notes, you've got to understand something, man. Not the threshold. Understand this about the blood. You're never, as the writer of Hebrews tells us, to trample underfoot the blood of Jesus Christ or the blood of the Lamb. And so on this, everything's pointing to Jesus. Everything's pointing to Jesus. So putting the blood on the doorposts and on the lintels over it, it'll drip down, it'll come, and it makes the shape of a cross. Jew and Gentile alike can partake of this only if they get circumcised. No stranger in the land. So they still have a choice. Understand this as you've been reading through here. He says to go and take from the flock a lamb on the 10th day. Now this is going to start their new year. This is the first feast. It's going to start their new year. And so you take from the flocks, from the sheep or the goats. They're going to interchange right there. But you're going to partake of it on the day. Go out on the day number 10, on the 10th day of the month. And for 4 days, bring that lamb in. And if you know anything about that, what are you doing? It's going to cost them something. Anyone ever in 4-H? Anyone here in 4-H? Something like that? What are you supposed to not do? Name the animal, right? Don't ever name the animal because you know you're going to raise that pig and you're going to sell it. It's going to make some money and you're going to eat it later, right? Don't name that pig. All right? FFA, Future Farmers of America. All right? So there's the whole thing. You're not supposed to just anything. I haven't grown up on a farm, but I know some people have, and they're like, you don't name them. You don't name them. Okay? That's the indoor cat. He has a name. That's an outdoor cat. Chicken Hawk going to get it. We're not going to name him. All right? He's just there to get the barn swallows out. We don't name him. I have one friend, every 6 months, he goes to the Humane Society with the same cages, and he cats up. All right? Because that's all he's doing. Like, what, you eating them? He goes, no, we're not eating them. I'm catting up. What are you doing? These are the cats that I'm taking that go and kill the barn swallows and the rats and the mice like that. But about every 6 months, they're just, Humane Society, okay, not a problem with it. I mean, if they can live. Now, the guy's got one cat who's survived. This cat's a survivor. One eye missing, tail half gone, limps around, fur, something like that. But when this cat walks out of the barn, it's like, looking for the chick. I mean, this cat's a survivor. This cat's a survivor. The house cat gets out, my buddy's got to run all over. Oh, where's Fluffy? Where's Flu Flu? He hates his wife's cat, all right? That cat has no survival skills whatsoever outside that front door. So here's the thing, folks. This is going to be a memorial. This is going to be the things that he's going to take them. But you go and you take that lamb, and you go get a lamb, if you've read the first few verses, and then what does it say? What's the language? You take your lamb. There is nothing written in the Scriptures by coincidence. It's not because you try to fill up some words. First you go take a lamb, and then what do? You make it your lamb. If you can't get the point and draw the connection yourself, you have to make the lamb your own. That's the whole thing about the Passover. Not just any old lamb. You go on the 10th day, then you bring it in. Now, tradition, by the time Jesus was around, they stretched it out to 10 days. That's how some people interpreted, by the time Jesus was around, it got so convoluted, made it so complicated. It was very simple. On day number 10, go, and for 4 days, and on the 14th day, you're going to sacrifice. It's going to cost you something. But here's what you're also supposed to do for the 4 days. It's a lamb without spot, without blemish. You are to be watching that lamb, inspecting that lamb, looking for any imperfections, because that lamb is going to take upon it your sins, your transgressions, and you are inspecting it. Okay, let's fast forward. What did they do with Jesus for almost 4 years, 3.5 years? They watched him. They inspected him. They watched him over and over and over again. And what did Jesus continually say? For which sin do you condemn me of? He was the perfect, spotless lamb that paid the price. So the question I ask you here today, for each and every one of you today, have you made the lamb your own? Here are the first few verses of Exodus here, chapter 12. You take a lamb, but then when you go to offer up the sacrifice, it's your lamb. Yes, this lamb is your lamb. This lamb is my lamb. From the golden altar. Okay, you understand it, right? You understand this is sacrifice for sin for you and I. That feast of unleavened bread for 7 days. You are to do these things. And God is pointedly doing things that you are going to be instituting these things and doing the things. Why? We're going to see in the first Passover and after all the other Passovers, their obedience to these orders. Understand this. Obedience is desired over what? Sacrifice. But he's setting some things up. For 7 days you're going to partake of unleavened bread. There's no leaven. What is leaven? Leaven is putrefying. It's corrupting. And it's representation of sin. We've already discovered that as we go through the Gospel of Matthew. We've already seen all that. We see the providences of God, and then we see it more so, the illustrations all the way through. You can see that Jesus is in the Passover all the way to our Passover lamb. He's the one. And then he goes on and talks about the firstborn of all the Egyptians, that they're going to be slain. This is that Passover. The angel's going to pass over. They need to see the blood. Everyone, look, Jew and Gentile alike. You first had to be circumcised. You had to be part of the Jews. You had to come in. You had to do that. You had to be part of the family. And then you still had to atone. You still had to go and sacrifice. Now, if your family was not big enough to consume the whole lamb, because here's the understanding. You were to consume the whole lamb. And whatever was left over, you were to burn up in the fire. Why? Everyone wonder why? Because Jesus' body, the lamb, would never see corruption. Would never be in that grave. There would be nothing left over. There would be nothing that would see corruption. No leaven, no nothing, that you can partake in this for 7 days. It's going to be in the grave, and there's not going to be anything there. So it's all going to be consumed. It's all gone. Nothing left over. It's one shot. That's what you get. An everlasting memorial for them. And he gives them their discharge and what they're supposed to do. He gives, again, that we're going to go out there, they're going to see that they're going to march. They're going to be exiting out, and he's going to give them these things. And why? Because you're going to leave rather quickly. Again, as we discovered last week, when it talks about borrowing from the Egyptians, it means that they're spoiling the Egyptians. The people readily gave it up to them. We want you to go. And every firstborn is going to die who does not have the blood. But you have to do it. You have to atone for your family. You have to atone. Everyone. And the other thing is you got to stay in the house. No peeking out. No looking. You've got to follow the orders precisely. And this is understand. That's grace. That's why I tell you this. No one ends up in hell because of their sins. No one is hell. No one ever goes to hell because of their sins. We sin because we are sinning. We're sinners. Sinning doesn't make us sinners. We sin because we are. A person will end up in hell for all eternity because they reject the Lamb, your Lamb. They reject Jesus Christ as Savior and Lord. Now, there's many sins that we do, but it's the one thing that we need to do is accept Jesus Christ as Savior and Lord, is the one thing that'll keep you out. And so here, they go and they get the spoils. They tend it with the mixed multitude. And verse 37 and 38, you might want to highlight that. You'll come back to it continually out through the Exodus and all the way into the Promised Land. The mixed multitude never, ever works out. But here's the thing. You're always going to have a mixed multitude. You need to accept that and readily understand it. There could be a mixed multitude in here today. I don't know if everyone here knows Jesus Christ as Savior and Lord. Some of you might come because, you like good people, or, the food's good or whatever. Food's good. You might have fellowship, something like that, whatever. Whatever your reasons are. Maybe you need to go to a meeting, and this qualifies for a meeting. Maybe this, whatever. I don't know everybody here, but I know Him who does know everybody. And so here's the thing, is that there's always going to be a mixed multitude. But the problem is, especially here in the United States, everyone can look like a Christian. And then that's how programs and ideas and agendas and how we can make this look more like the world or what I just came back from. Now, for some of you that don't know me, you'll know me. And I always sometimes get this, sometimes people offer, we're not really a heavy program-driven church or whatever, not a purpose-driven church. Jesus drives us. He leads us. I'm not driven anywhere. Butchers, those of you who were in Israel last time, you saw that, Saw a herd of sheep and a flock of sheep, and he saw a guy behind it pushing and driving it with his stick. And I said, hey, man, what's the deal here? I thought shepherds lead with their staff. And he goes, they do. I'm a butcher. I just bought them. And he's driving them. All right? You want to be driven all you want, but I want to be led by the shepherd. And I'm going to be that flock and in that land there. So then there's always a mixed multitude, but mixed multitudes come in. But I have the same thing. People say, well, hey, Pastor Chick, when I went to this church and I grew up and I did this thing or whatever, and we had this program, we did that thing, and I said, like, yeah, hey, let me just point out I just don't really ease up to it. I just say, hey, but you were spiritually dead in that church, right? Yeah. Well, why would you want to bring spiritual death here and that which produced spiritual death for you over there? Why would you want to bring that here? I mean, didn't you accept the Lord here? Didn't you come to faith here? Aren't you walking more fervently with the Lord? Yeah. Then why bring that with you? Oh, right. Well, I thought it was just like a really good... Hey, man, has everyone got a Bible? Isn't there enough already on your plate reading that and doing that? I'm going to give you a challenge at the end here. Again, they put their shifts for the present supply. Again, the data, we see again the memorable ordinances with some of the additions, verses 43 through 49. And then verses 50 and 51 of chapter 12. Go with me to chapter 13. In this chapter, we're going to have the commands of God to Israel. Gives them orders, and they leave in obedience. The Passover happens. You got to atone the blood. You got to take the lamb. You got to make it your lamb, and then you got to offer up that lamb after you name that lamb, whatever. You've inspected that lamb, and you present that lamb, and that lamb is slaughtered. And again, if your household isn't big enough to eat all of the lamb or devour it all, or you join up with somebody else, but you can do that. So we see the commands of God in chapter 13, verses 1 and 2. It talks about sanctifying the firstborn. Remember that. Again, this goes all the way. He's going to set up the first fruits. He's going to be setting up that you're going to redeem. That redemption is that it's already yours. It's been sold, but you get to buy it back. It all belongs to the Lord. To remember their deliverance. This is what you're to do. So again, the Passover. Before the Passover, the 7 days of unleavened bread. That's an interesting thing. If you study the Passover, you know that even today, my Jewish friends, what they do is the first day of the unleavened bread, they get out all the leaven of the house and they leave it and they go and they hide it away. And then again, with the matzah, with that third or that second section of the bread that they break there, they leave half there, they hide the other half, and they're supposed to go look for it. The kids are supposed to go look for it. That thing that's a mystery. And I haven't had one Jewish friend who's ever been able to explain that to me. I said, well, I always put it, could it possibly be Jesus or maybe the church, or is there a mystery going on here? No. Jesus has nothing to do with the Passover. I have my Orthodox friends tell me that quite a bit. So we see that this is going to be a remembrance to keep the feast and the unleavened bread. And you're going to do this every year. If this happens every year. To transmit the knowledge of with all the possible care to the children. I was blessed greatly this Sunday because someone came to me and says, you know what, for the first time in my life, I truly understand what Memorial Day is all about. It's not just a 3-day weekend. I've heard about it, I kind of knew, but this church really honors the troops and honors the Memorial Day, and you really know what it's about. I've never, and just having that one of awe. If you've never visited here in Minnesota, the National Cemetery, where some of my buddies are laid to rest there, and if you've never gone to do that, I've raised my kids. We've gone there. We'd be there up until a few years ago, until they all grew up or whatever. But we'd leave Sunday after church, and we'd go out there and read the graves, and all the way from World War I and II, and the Civil War, and this is what and up until the 20s, it used to be called Decoration Day. Why? Because you would go out and decorate the graves, and that started in 1869 after the Civil War. And then in 1923, I believe it was made into Memorial Day. And what it's all about. Do you realize this, that at the height of World War II, 1 out of 3 people were affected by somebody in the war, serving in the war. At one time, there was 16 million United States citizens serving in World War II. 1 out of 3 people were directly affected by somebody either dying or being, or they knew somebody in the military. Do you know what the statistic is today? At best, it's 1 out of 18 people. So it's no wonder people think it's a 3-day holiday or whatever, and they don't understand that. 1 out of 18 people are affected by somebody who's either served or in the military. That's how far away they are from it. So I understand something about Memorial. He's setting this up, 7 days of unleavened bread. Why? Because you're going to do this every day or every year. And this is what's going to go on, and you're going to pass this on. Now let's fast forward it to you and I, Christians. Christianity is only 1 generation away from extinction. Some of you have heard that before, but maybe it'll be real to you today. Unless we pass this on, there are no grandchildren in the kingdom of God, in the family of God. Just spiritual moms and dads and kids, that's it. And we are 1 generation away. Parents, do you evangelize your children? You can't make Christians. You can't. All right? Some of you think they're the Nephilim and you've created monsters, but understand this, is that you cannot make Christians. They have to be evangelized. They have to know Jesus Christ as Savior and Lord. And unlike some people, our children's ministry here and our youth ministry here is not taking the place of any parent's responsibility. If you occasionally would go to our website and look at those things, you'd understand that we come alongside. We assist. But if parents just drop their kids off and this is the only time, well, sometimes there are some that they don't know the Lord or they're biblically illiterate or it's just a cultural thing, but we're still going to minister to their kids. But the only way that it's going to take root is if those kids are discipled, if they're evangelized and discipled, moms and dads, that's your responsibility. For you and I who lead someone to Christ, it's our responsibility to disciple them as well. It's not the catch and release program. Which one of you would have a child here and say, great, we brought you in this world. Ooh, there you go, you're on your own. That's what we do when we lead people to Christ and we do not disciple them and make sure that they're taken care of. How can that be? And so here, to transmit the knowledge, that was what the memorial all about. And we partake of communion tonight. Understand it's about what Christ Jesus has done for you and I. Do this in remembrance of me. You're going to do these things. Set apart to God the first things or the cattle. To explain that also. Why are we doing this, Dad? Another brother who's read ahead and understands that says, you know, it's the same price to redeem a man as is a donkey. I said, that's true. But if you don't want the donkey, you have to break the donkey's neck. You don't want to redeem him. Not for you and I. We're different. Man and donkeys are different. But man and donkeys are different. But understand this. You're to explain this. Why are we doing that, Dad? Why is that happening, Mom? Well, this is why. Because we were to... And you understand, if they don't tell about it. Look, it's true. In Israel, you would think that no one is a disbeliever of the Holocaust. But we've been to Israel. There's people that go, you know, the Holocaust, Schmolocaust, that was my moms and dads and grandparents. That was their generation. They're into peace and everything else right now. And it's not much importance. It used to be. I never understood why there was such a rise of neo-Nazism and fascism and that stuff coming back into Germany after what happened in World War II with Hitler. The Turks, by the way, are the new Jews of Germany. Everyone's picking on the Turks because they're imported labor force there. And now they're persecuting them. How could that come? Because up until 21 years ago, it was a mandatory requirement of graduation of high school that you had to visit one of the death camps. And you had to write a report that this would never happen again. They stopped that 21 years ago. It's no longer a requirement in high school. Ta-da! Take the 10 Commandments and prayer out of school to make room for the metal detectors and the dog sniffing drug dogs, right? How can it be? And so here's the thing. If you remove those memorials, you move those lasting things and stuff. Is Christmas, I mean, it's a pagan holiday that was Christianized and the whole tree and stuff like that. And sure, they Christianized it and they came up with all stuff like that. But do you really explain to your children that there is no Satan Claus? Do you really explain to them what Christmas is all about and why you're doing those things and why you're buying presents and doing those things and it's nowhere found in the Bible? Why are you explaining these things to them? Well, this is what we're doing, and that's what we're doing. And so here, to explain also to their children so they wouldn't be lost. God took care of Israel. And He brought them out of Egypt. Now again, you've read ahead, Moses is writing the first 5 books of the Old Testament. It says that God provided for them for 40 years in the wilderness. So we know this is after the fact. But he's explaining these things. God took care of Israel, and he brought them out of Egypt. He chose their way for them. You know, they were up in Goshen, up in the Delta area. All they had to do, they didn't even have to go down to the Red Sea or the Suez Canal, whatever. They could have just gone right up through the Sinai Desert and right up into the Promised Land. That's the way Joseph did when he went to go bury his dad, Jacob. But he didn't go. God led them in a way out, guiding them all the way. And, they took care to bring Joseph's bones. Do you know that'll probably be the only mummy that we'll find in Israel is Joseph, because he's mummified. The departure of Israel out of Egypt. Again, it could have just been a few days, but we're going to see that there's going to be a 7-day journey, 24 hours a day. How could that be? Listen, folks, if you remember your maps, if you know the 694, 494 loop, 2, quite possibly 3 million people. They don't all move at once. It takes 24 hours to maybe move 10 miles. I mean, we could be back here sleeping, wake up the next day, and then it's our turn to move. And then we bump it, understand. 2-3 million people walking and getting out of there. And so here, he was a pillar of fire by day and a pillar of cloud by night, 7 hours. And God also supernaturally just worked on him there. We see that they took care of this. So in chapter 14, the departure of Israel and the children of Israel out of Egypt. Again, 430 years that they had spent there. Understand this, for chapter 14, who's leading you? I'm trying to give you a summary of a theme of chapter 14. Who's leading you? And how are you being led? It's how I lead. It's just simply how I lead. Pillar of fire by cloud, pillar of fire by night, pillar of cloud by day, pillar moves, you move. That's how I lead a tour in Israel, missions trips, wherever I go. Pillar moves, you move. You're taking a rest, you take a rest. Pillar moves, you move. You don't want to go where the pillar goes? Don't. No one's forced to go along with any of this. You'd be fooled if you didn't. But again, we know that in Hebrews 11:29, that again records this also. Cross-reference that, read it on your own. They passed through the Red Sea as if in dry land. They passed through the Red Sea as if in dry land. Now, if the world can do this, this is the whole thing. This isn't that great of a miracle anymore, to me. When maybe 30 years ago. But not what I can see with technology today. I mean, have you studied the first green eco ballpark in the United States? It's the Target. It's the Twin Stadium right there. Do you know after a torrential pour down of rain, literally a half hour later, it looks like it never even rained there. It's so dry. They've got a drainage system there that can run off water and get rid of that. Look, if the world can do that, how much more so God? If the world can get rid of millions of gallons of water, and you're walking out on the Twins field there as if in dry land, how much more so God? He can do it supernaturally and other things. And I got some video and some pictures here to show you as well. But God led them. It looked like they were going to be cornered in. But God also using the children of Israel. Understand this. Why does he take them by this way? Remember, he's promised them that they're going to go into the Promised Land. And they're going to fight the Hittites, the Girgashites, the Amorites, the Uptites, the Outasites, the Weird-sites, everyone, right? He's going to fight all the Outasites. But they're not even ready for battle yet. They're not even ready for battle yet. He's got to take them through and put them through some trials. Understand this, no trial, no test comes your way that hasn't first come through the hands of the Father. He's got to toughen them up. He's got some trials. Don't be so ready to say, oh, this is a horrible thing, this is a horrible thing. It may be horrible for you, but what is God doing? He's preparing them. But he's also using them to finish a complete work that he's going to do with Pharaoh. Notice it was given to Moses, again, this destruction, this danger of the Red Sea. It was given to Moses. He said this is what's going to happen ahead of time here. The cause of Pharaoh's violent pursuit of them, again, hardened his heart. Strengthened, that's what it says in the Hebrews word, to strengthen his resolve. Pharaoh was already going to be this way. God made sure he stayed hard that way, because now he's going to pursue him. He's going to come after them. It was Israel, again, great consternation upon them. They're seeing that they're coming. They're fleeing. 2-3 million people don't move that fast. And you can just take people out, verses 10 through 12. Moses endeavors to encourage them. Stand back and see the salvation of the Lord. Do you ever see that? Do you ever see 10 Commandments, Cecil B. DeMille, Charlton Heston? Stand back and see the salvation of the Lord. Not quite accurate. Because after this, Moses goes and cries out to the Lord, okay, I just fronted you. I know you said, this one said, he says, stand back and see the salvation, Lord. God already communicated to Moses, this is what he's going to do. I'm going to take you to the Red Sea, and I'm going to deliver you. And these things are going to happen. Oh, man. He goes, I'm going to show you these things, and I'm going to do these things. So he goes up, stand back and see the salvation of the Lord. He goes in, God, okay, come through. And God says, why are you crying? I went out there. Understand what he did. Listen, have you taken notes? He went out there in obedience and declared what God was going to do. But here's the leaders like getting kind of freaked out about it. Why are you crying to me, Moses? Why are you crying to me? The wonderful, again, deliverance of God we're going to see, again, out of this great distress. That's what makes it so amazing. I mean, they are hemmed in by all sides. He gives them, again, Moses is instructed concerning verses 15 through 18. And lines that could be forced are set between the camp of Israel and Pharaoh's camp. He puts, what? You see from the movie, he puts a big dust storm there or something. But he puts the lines between them. Look, they're not going to get past. They're not going to get past. Again, now I've gone to great efforts and pains to help you use your Bible maps and to use your things and to show you charts and graphs, and hopefully it'll pay off for you here today because you can see some things. We just think of certain things that we see in movies. For those of us who you've been with us to Egypt and to Israel and you know this area right here, this is miraculous because God really stacked the deck against themselves and against the children of Israel to have this. Because Pharaoh's got to think, you know, he's got him now. He's got him. By divine power, the Red Sea is divided. And again, it's made into dry land. And they're going to safely pass through it. At this point of the Red Sea, you're going to see that it's 11 miles wide. But for those of you who study the Red Sea, you know that it's 5,000 feet deep. So if you're up here, you got to go down almost a mile to walk. It's like getting to the rim of the Grand Canyon and walking down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon and then getting across and walking back up. It didn't work out that way, folks. To the Egyptians, it was made, and it looked like it was an ambush. They've got them here. But in actuality, it's going to be their grave. God is using the Israelites to complete a work that He's doing. Again, the impressions that this made upon the Israelites in verses 30 and 31. Get the lights. Jimmy, get ready for this. I want you to show you something here. So we see here in the Red Sea, where did they cross? And we know that it's a shallow crossing, but was it the Reed Sea? And again, as I shared with you before, did the whole Egyptian army drown in like knee-deep of water? That would be miraculous. And we know this is ascertained fact, and this is real history as well. It's not just in the Bible there, so we know this truly just happened. But let's look at the backstory again. Again, you had to understand some of your maps and stuff like that, but that Pharaoh hardened his heart. And we know that the Mount Sinai that's in the Sinai Peninsula isn't the real Mount Sinai. It was just called that. Some monks found it, but we're going to know that that area on that Sinai Peninsula has always belonged to the Egyptians. But he says he's going to bring them back, and he gave them certain instructions. He gave them a certain roadmap of how they were supposed to go and what they would do and the route that they would take. Mount Horeb has always been in Arabia. The Apostle Paul even tells us that in Acts chapter 7, verse 30, Mount Sinai. Everyone's known it's been in Arabia, what's modern-day Saudi Arabia, or even at that day it was called Arabia. We even know that all the way through. We've seen that all the way in the back of the beginning of Genesis. Even Abraham says, I know, Mount Horeb, where Hagar is from, I know. So they didn't travel to the wilderness, and now this, what's called the Sinai Peninsula there. Again, there's a monastery right there. It's owned by some monks, so they got it there. And they, again, the various things that is, that the whole Sinai Peninsula was then, and it now is at Egypt. It's never left Egypt's hands. It would, again, we know that the Turquoise Mountains, a large military presence was there. We know because we can see the fortress that is still there. A couple trips ago, that's an area that I wanted to go, but we weren't able to go. We didn't have enough time to get to that area, but I'll show you what it looks like here. We see that the Mount Sinai, again, is not that Mount Sinai, but St. Catherine's Monastery, and that's there because of the various roadmap. Moses was tending the flock in Jethro and Midian there. We know that Mount Horeb and Mount Sinai are one and the same. And we know that Midian, it's always been there. It's always been in Saudi Arabia now, but it's always been in Arabia. It's never moved. It's never changed. And it's not like, there's 3 Menominees. There's 2 in Wisconsin and 1 here in Minnesota. I guess they just left. They said, I don't like it there. Let's move a little bit. 1 Menominee in Door County, 1 Menominee just about an hour away from here, and 1 up in Minnesota. I guess they didn't really anticipate, the whole world being small and then us all being connected there. But so Josephus describes this. That's a Jewish historian there. We know Greek philosophers and Greek poets and stuff, they had again, discovered what Mount Sinai was and where it was. They left Ramses. This is where you can think. Ramses is not just a certain place, but are they going to go to the left or to the right? Ramses is like, are we going to take the road to Cana or the way to the Red Sea there? It means a door. It means two roads. It means either the road to Canaan or the road access to the wilderness of Arabia. He could have just taken them to Cana. It was right there. It was the same section, the same plot of land that Joseph took to go bury his father Jacob there. But he's going to take him to Arabia here. I'm going to show you some NASA photographs here of the various areas here. So in chapter 13, verse 17, if they face war, they might change their minds and return to Egypt. So why is he leading them out? Chapters 13 and 14. Why is he leading them out and taking these things? Because they're not ready for war yet. There's got to be some trials. There's going to be some toughening up. When someone says, man, I've never suffered any trials or tribulations, then you still must be in the honeymoon. Don't ruin their honeymoon. Let it last as long as it can. But trials are going to come. The suffering you're trying to avoid, you're actually going to cause. You will suffer as a Christian. They'll persecute you. Why? Because they first persecuted me, Jesus said. Those who seek to live a godly life will be persecuted. So we see the millions that are coming there. Their livestock, their wagons, their personal belongings, the treasures they got. They're bringing all these things. They're rapidly moving out, and they're getting out of there. We know that to be Passover. There's not time for the bread to rise, so there's no leaven in it. 7 days you should eat unleavened bread. We know these are the various things right here. And they traveled again 7 days, 24 hours, again, by the hand of the Lord. It takes a while to get moving there. And there's a reason to believe that God assisted, I guess, in their flight as well. We'll see here that you yourselves have seen what I did to the Egyptians. And I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. It's getting ahead in Exodus chapter 19. But understand it. Then God set a trap for Pharaoh. That which they looked upon themselves and said, oh no, man, we're really stuck here. That was actually a trap for Pharaoh. And so God wanted Pharaoh to think that the children of Israel were all lost in the wilderness and they didn't know which way they were going. God said, what did he want to do? He wanted to glorify his name. He wanted to bring glory to his name. And again, those who are thinking it's a test and it's a trial and what's going to go on there, God was actually using it for his glory. We've seen that in Exodus chapter 14, verse 4. Again, he thinks that they're hemmed in. It's going to come after them. But we're going to see something here about the Red Sea and about the crossing of the Red Sea. The children of Israel, again, a place that could trap 2 to 3 million people. A place, a minimum of 7 days travel from the Strait Point. Where could that crossing be? Well, here's a NASA map, folks. So let me give you, if you've done your maps, this is modern-day Israel right here. That's the Sea of Galilee. That's the Dead Sea. This is the Red Sea. This is the Mediterranean. This is the land of Goshen. That's Egypt. They could have gone right through here up into Canaan. But God's going to take them down and around. God's going to take them, right, you're going to see right here. God's going to take them all over these places right here. And they're going to end up right about there. So let's just get ahead here. If you got a Bible with maps, you can go and you can check this out. So this is the places we're going to see. You can put the question marks at Pith-Haroth, Baal-Zephon, Etham. You're going to see. And he tells us where these places are. And these names are there to this day. And they've always been there. So let's see some things here, folks. Follow the red little arrows and the maps and the various things like that. Again, this is Israel. They could have gone right from there. Let's try something else. Let's backtrack. Let's see where a large body of water is. See? Could be the Mediterranean. There has to be a large enough body of water to again, the Suez Canal. Suez right here. Again, part of the Red Sea. And the Red Sea itself right there. The Gulf of Aqaba. This is the Sinai Peninsula. This is Saudi Arabia. Petra right there. Okay. Anyway. The 7 days. Again, the land of Goshen. You got it right there. Which is a 7-day trip. 7 days, 24 hours a day. Look at the route. So what does the Bible tell us? Remember, The Bible is the greatest commentary on itself. Just follow the things there right there. It tells us in Numbers 35, the starting point and the ending point before something significant happened there. It tells us that Edom is on the edge of the desert, Numbers 33:6. Since they started at the western edge of the desert, why would you think Edom is here? The Bible tells us again, it's opposite Baal Zephon. We know where those ruins are to this day. They've been discovered. They've always been called that. So let's look at some stuff here. So, here's your journey. This is where the crossing is going to be. Let's work backwards from the landmarks that are already there. Look at the peninsula, look at what's going on. So you work back, so okay. Edom, right there. So you see all the spots right here? Come there, come there. They're moving all around. He's taking them to the desert, filling up. We're going to get to right there. For those of you listening online stuff, go ahead and Google's Exodus Revealed, and you can look at this slide presentation as well. So is there something significant there? Incredibly significant here. This is the Nubia Peninsula. A huge, again, we're going to see a huge beach right there. We're going to see resorts. We're going to see how they'd come right through this wadi right here. And they're going to cross over into Saudi Arabia. This is the wadi that they're going to travel all the way through to this nice sandy beach area right here. Can you see it on the map right here? It's still there to this day. Look at that. They're going to leave Sukkot. They're going to come through here and they're going to go through this wadi. So do you see how Pharaoh could think that they're trapped or they're wandering in the wilderness? But look at this. There's no other way except to go all the way around the peninsula and come up there. There's no other way. This is it. In the Marines, we'd call this a kill zone because all you have to do is just get on the high area there and shoot down into it. And so here, they come through this area right here. Again, going through the sea, going out through that way, people can get through there. Interesting, when you read through these, and if you've read ahead, you realize that God tells them to set them out in their armies, and also in a single file, by the way, not in a mob, to go all the way out that way. When we did a motorcade to just 5 miles from here for Sergeant Jerry Vick's funeral, police officer, there was people at the graves at the church who hadn't even left. There's people at the church who hadn't even left the church to 5 miles to the gravesite. That's how long the motorcade was. So look, folks, it's 2 to 3 million people. You're leaving on day one. You might be leaving on day two. It's day one for somebody else, but by the time you start moving. But going through this wadi right there. Here's the peninsula, folks. Look how they come out. Here's an airstrip right here, a couple of hotels, beautiful sandy beach. Here's ruins of an Egyptian fortress. Army. This has always been in the land of Egypt right here. They're going to cross over. Something interesting about this site as well. We'll see again, everything still being in Egypt's hands. We see the route of the wadi right here. We see the Egyptian fortress over here. 2 to 3 million people, all hemmed in. So you could see how Pharaoh could think that, okay, I've got them trapped, got them right where they want it, no place to go. But the Gulf of Aqaba is about 11 miles wide at this point. And again, we know that it's 5,000 feet deep. Even if there was no water crossing, again, it would be extremely difficult, would it not? Yeah, I think so. You're not going to climb down 5,000 feet. But look at what's happening here. One place and one place only is there. It's only 200 feet down. There is a land bridge under 200 feet of water. There it is, folks. 5,000 deep on this side, 5,000 deep on that side. And right here where they are, 200, all they got to do is just go down shallow 200 feet, and there's a land bridge. In all of that Gulf, that's the only place it is. We've got modern technology. We can go 5,000 feet, boom, bump a submarine. That's why it's hard for submarines to get through there, because they only got 200 feet to work with. They're going to cross on that land bridge. Now again, this isn't accurate right there. It's more at an angle right there to Baal Zephon. And again, whether God built this up at that time or whenever, but again, you can pull the water away and the sand's going to dry out. And that's what I'm saying. You look at the Target Center, you look at the Target Field right now, where the Minnesota Twins play, half hour after it's done raining, torrential rainpours, it's like dry ground there because they have a great sand system underneath all that grass, drainage system. They're able to suck it out and get it there. It's all good to go, folks. This is what they've got to do right here. Hey, let's see if there's any artifacts there. There should be some evidence there. There should be some things there. Everywhere, for those of you who scuba dive, you know that coral doesn't grow in a uniform pattern, or mush. It doesn't grow in a uniform way. So let's look at the water there. Let's look at the various things right here. Coral that attaches itself to things. For those of you who scuba dive with us in the Red Sea, you know that coral, we see that there's ships that they've sunk down there and barges and stuff, and coral will attach itself to it. But there's certain things that it can't attach itself to. So we can see there's something circular right here and something coming up. I wonder what that could be. So we're going to see some various things. So we see this right here. Coral doesn't grow like this. Coral goes up like reverse stalactite or whatever. There's something circular right here with some type of shaft going down right there. That's all around this where could it quite possibly be a chariot wheel? Folks, they're finding artifacts like this all over this land bridge on both sides of it. And then you can see the circular things. You can see where there's quite possibly. But, maybe that's not convincing enough. Maybe you need to know something. Do you know that coral does not adhere to gold? What is a gold wheel? Who threw the rims down there, right? Why is there a gold rim, just like the Bible says, gold chariots? I mean, did the Ministry of Tourism throw some rims down there so people will go scuba diving? This is what's down there. And they're all over the place. They used gold. Coral, I like that. I like that somehow they had an idea to use gold. I think God put it there because now here it is a few thousand years later and there's gold wheels. This isn't just one, folks. This isn't just one obscure thing. So again, we see the land that they're going through here. Again, Goshen coming down through here, boom. This is the land of Israel. They're going to cross over and they're going to spend 40 years here. And we're going to get to that as time goes on. We're going to see that Pharaoh's army is drawn to the Red Sea. We have a physical, and then we see this whole thing right here, folks. We see all the physical things right there. We see all the evidences that God wants to put. You see, the Bible is real. It's real history. That's why when we say you got to go to Israel with us, man, because you watch the pages of your Bible go from black and white into living color. We'll see here that also that God let be God found true and every man be found a liar, Romans 3:4. That when they actively participate in the lie to try to cover these things up, why isn't that made known to us? So we see there, thy word is true from the beginning. Again, from Psalm 109. Turn the lights on for me, please. So now let's go to Exodus chapter 15 quickly as we go through here. Israel looks back upon Egypt with a song and the praise. Now we used to sing this in the church. We used to go to back in Oceanside. The horse and rider are thrown into the sea. My God has become my victory. He has thrown the horse and the rider into the sea. The first song, by the way, if you're going to do first mentions, the first song in the Bible is the one of God's salvation, His victory, and how He delivered them. And it was just prompted. They didn't practice this. Here's the whole thing. They did not practice this. Okay, then when we get across the Red Sea, we're going to break out Miriam and Aaron and all those. We got this jam going. We're going to bust it out, man. We got the song. We're waiting for the right time. Everyone gets across. The horse and rider are thrown into the seas. Become my victory. My God, my God. It's a great song. But anyways, it's along the lines of Father Abraham type of tempo. But they're walking across, and they get across, and then Pharaoh's army comes, and they're all screaming, what's going on? Whoosh, it becomes their grave. And then a song. Just a little side note here. You're in the Word of God and you're trusting Jesus Christ. You should be able to break out a song at any time, folks. There's got to be a song in your heart. And that's what it talks about in Philippians, that, you know what? Whatever is noble, whatever is praiseworthy, whatever is honorable, think upon those things. I didn't plan this out. This lamb is your lamb. This lamb is my lamb. It just kind of comes to me. I'm that way. And I don't know particularly one worship song all the way through. That's why I just put them all together. But God's happy with it. I get saliva butt finger calls from my grandkids. They know what they're calling, but And I'll listen to that all day long. My daughter calls me, Gara, Gara, Gara. That's not fun. My little granddaughter, I can hear all that. That's how I kind of, God doesn't get mad at me like I do my kids, but here's the other thing. He just wants to hear from us, and we have that song, and we have that whole thing, and it just breaks out. And they didn't plan this, and that's what I'm saying. That's that spontaneous, and that's what comes up. If you have that heart and that attitude and praise and worship, it's just going to come out, and you can sing that song. The song itself, verses 1 through 19, we see that it turns into solemn singing. Someone's going to ruin it. Someone's going to ruin it. I mean, it's solemn, but they're just, this is great. This is exciting. This is wonderful. And, okay, wait a minute. This is to the Lord or whatever. Okay, that which turned out to be just a happy, pretty good time, praise song, now someone's going to get real solemn with it. There are those times for those solemn songs, but this is one of them. What are you going to, no way! Did you see that? And here's the thing, folks. Not all 2-3 million people saw it. They had to get across. Not the whole 2-3 million. If you look on the other side, they had to go up the hills. They had to go whatever. Some people didn't say, what? Whoosh. And look at all the Egyptians doing the dead man float. But here's what happens in chapter 15. God delivers them. Would you think they'd have anything to complain about? See, there's where the discontentment and the bitterness comes in, and that's what Mara means. So now after this, for 3 days, they're traveling through, and there's the water. Maybe they ran out of their water, and they're carrying water with them. But now they see this body of water, and what happens? They begin to be bitter. They start talking about it. Some of you know the Keith Green song, You Want to Go Back to Egypt. And great song, but here's this whole thing. You want to go back to Egypt? And revisionist history. Weren't we sitting by flesh pots? Didn't we have onions and leeks by the Nile? I don't know why you think that's great, but okay. I mean, I like to chop them up, fry them up, put a little ham with them, but those are good. But just eating an onion? I didn't realize that until I met a Lebanese friend of mine, good friend of mine. He could take an onion. I love it. He eats them like apples. Just, wow. Whoever marries you, hang on to her. She'll kiss that mug, buy her whatever she wants, man. But he just eats an onion. This is great. I just thought he was just joking. No, all the time, eating onions. I was like, man. But I guess it was really good. But just revisions. Didn't we have it better? Why? Because you've got God. Here's the whole thing, folks. They did not apply the lesson learned from God delivering them. They did not apply that God did not bring you this far to now leave you on your own and to kill you. And that's new. This is new for them. I want you to understand, this is new for them. If this would be the same situation many years later, it would be worse off for them. And we're going to see that when we get to the book of Judges. But right now, okay, it's understandable. You're on a learning curve. You're learning. I know it's just real temple. You only think, okay, great. That was 3 days ago, God. I need, sweet Maribel. I need. And what does God do? He takes a tree. He doesn't pump new water into it. He doesn't get him to a different... He says, oh, you know what? Forget about this. Let's move on to another source. What does he do? He takes a tree. Folks, maybe it's just me, but think about it on your own. He takes a tree and he makes it sweet. What was Jesus Christ hung on? He's always referred to as a tree. He took that which was bitter, he put a tree in it, and he makes it sweet. We can take that. Again, I don't know if you were paying attention. Any of the songs that I pick out for worship, they're not random. Because I read ahead. Because I pray ahead. And every song is prayed about. And if you listen, if you remember the words, that some of the songs that we're able, that he bears our sin and our sorrows, that bitterness that he can turn into the sweetness there. He can do those things. That tree, if we take our burdens to Jesus Christ who's hung on the tree, he can take that bitterness. But then there's that other bitterness. There's bitterness that gets in, the mixed multitudes there. How do you handle bitterness? The Bible tells you if you have problems with somebody, we'll go to Matthew chapter 18, verses 15 through 17, 3 verses. Try to live those out. How to deal with one another. Bitterness can get in. Bitterness will get in, but how do you deal with it? Are you just that bitter person? Are you just that person that just, it just looks like you're the Christian who sucks a case of lemons every day? Not like my buddy who eats onions every day and a wife will kiss him. That guy's happy. And he's eating onions. Bro, if you're listening to me, I love you. Well, call me later. But the whole thing is that we see this, that they're discontent. What are they discontent with? Listen, what are they discontent with? Maybe it's in your own notes. Share this with me. They're discontent with God's provision. It's not good enough. We get to Exodus chapter 16. Now they're going to be whining. God delivers them, gives them sweet water. Takes that tree, boom, makes it sweet. Doesn't move them on to a different source. Doesn't say, oh, this is too tough for you. Doesn't say, watch this whole thing, I'm going to pump. He could have very well have done that. He could have very well bypassed the whole thing and just gone right into the promised land. But he had to toughen them up. He had to take them through some trials. He had to do what we're told in the New Testament about test and approve faithful men. So listen up, Christians. What is that testing all about? God might be working someone else in someone else's life through you, but understand that God wants you to learn something here. But here comes the whining. They're complaining of want of bread. God's going to provide for them. And even at that, the manna, you've read ahead, the manna, what is it? The manna, what is it? Manna, that's what it means. What is it? And He's going to provide for them. The law is concerning the manna that they should gather it daily for the daily bread, 6 days. And on that 6 days, there'll be enough there. You can't go out later. You have to collect it in the morning. It won't be there because there was a dew, and then when the sun comes out, it'll all scorch away. But you have to go out and collect it. You can bring it. If you take it and collect it and put it in a pot and bring it back to your place, then it'll stay. But if you try to go out later, it's not going to be there. That they should gather a double portion on the 6th day, that they should expect none on the 7th day. Expect none, and what happens? They do. And God says, I don't desire that. 6 days you should do that. But on the 6th day, there'll be double portions there. But others didn't want to go out the next day, so they tried to hoard more on one day, and the next day it was all full of worms and stuff like that. You can only get that manna. You can only get that for that day. It's not offered any other time. It's the same way when it comes to salvation. You only have while you have breath in your life right now. You only have right now to do the right things that God has called you to do. You don't have tomorrow. No one has a guarantee of tomorrow. I was at a funeral a couple of weeks ago, a former chaplain. He knew he was dying. He knew he was having some health problems, and he leaves his house late Saturday night, doesn't tell his wife. He goes and checks himself into Region. 2-3 hours later, he calls his wife and says, hey, this guy's a believer, full-on believer. Done it the way I would have done it. I don't know if I would have gone to the hospital, but he goes there and he says, honey, I'm dying. I'm probably going to be dead later. Well, and he goes, look, there's nothing you can do for me. Just get the kids, tell them it's time. Some of the kids didn't make it. Died Sunday morning just a few hours later. Checks himself in there. No one has a guarantee of tomorrow. And that's the thing that can get by with you. You think you have time. You know, one of the things that people get frustrated with me about my own family and others or people, I mean, there's not much that I have to show financially or physically or materials for our lives. I mean, everything we own we can get in any other garage sale. We can have all that kind of stuff like that. My daughter the other day was sharing with some people. They said, what states have you've been all over the world? And she goes, well, what states have you been to? She goes, give me a map. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. Those are the only ones you've been to? No, those are the only 5 I haven't been to. You get on me we're all over the world. We've gone missions. We've gone Israel. We've gone all over the world. My bank account yesterday, there's only a $27 in it. That's what it is, man. That's it. There's more in there now, honey. We can go shopping later. But yesterday there was $27. Look at it. But there's not much now. But get it while the getting's good, all right? Oftentimes you hear people, sometimes people have come to me and says, you got your wife on a short leash. Because sometimes you'll hear, honey, I need $40 for this. Is there money there's like that? And some people have come to us and says, man, I can't believe your husband's under your thumb. He's got you under your thumb and he's something like that. She's like, I'm not asking him if I can have $40. I'm asking, is there $40? Like, oh, and I'm not, this is a week-by-week thing, man. If you need something, let me know ahead of time, man. We're good at planning, all right? I just need to know what I'm not eating, what I'm not doing, like that. I asked for a sandwich and chips. Bring a sandwich and chips. I go spend $2 up at SA and get that stuff that'll make you throw up later. I can do that, but that $2, I'm saving a couple bucks here that I got to put in my daughter's gas tank because she's going to ask for it later. I understand that. So when I'm eating the sandwich and the chips, a good sandwich and chips made with love, I know, and she knows there's $3 more coming to her tank when she says, Dad. I know that. Is it there? Look, you're going to do this, and they're going to preserve something in that Ark of the Covenant, but you're going to do this as a memorial. Let's go for an application and get out of here. Chapter 12, Jesus is your Lamb. Chapter 13, have you set apart yourself, and have you passed this on to others? For you parents, to your children. That is your first ministry. Man, many men that I've met that have died on their deathbed and they regret that they never gave the gospel to their kids. They took of that opinion. Chapter 16, do you trust the Lord to lead you? Chapter 14, do you trust the Lord to lead you? They don't have the benefit that we have. Moses is writing after the fact. Chapter 15, bitterness. How do you handle it? How do you handle it? Chapter 16, will God's provision satisfy you or lead you into being discontent? You know, in chapter 16, you read there, if you obey me and do these things, you will get none of these diseases that the Egyptians have. Can I just tell you something I just discovered? I've studied through Exodus a lot, through doing my research this week. None of these diseases. Just going out and not searching the Bible and not going to Christian websites, but you can do this. Google this. Google's this. Abortion and breast cancer. Here's something that I found out this week that just blows my mind. American Medical Journal is like, why is there, since the 70s, more reported breast cancer than any time ever in history? Ever in history. Why is this? All over the world, what is going on there? This is what you won't find out at Planned Parenthood. There's something that happens with the first birth. Ladies, if you don't know this, you can't give milk until you have a baby. Guys, I don't know if you realize that. But once a woman has her first child, do you know she can always produce milk? She might not have breastfed for a while, but it'll take a little while to get the pump going, but I've seen it happen. It's happened. Right? No, one woman who, after 10 years not breastfeeding, my sister left her kid with her, and she left because doing some other stuff, and her neighbor, they're all hippies. I just grew up a hippie kid, and she started breastfeeding her. It wasn't true milk, but it was enough the glycemia that was in there. You can do it. But here's something else. With an abortion, because the birthing process is cut in half, there's something that does not happen that finishes the process. I can't even get into all the difficult things. I'm just giving you what, my GED can tell you. But the whole thing is that it stops the process from the woman's body. Different than a miscarriage. A miscarriage, you actually go through it. Birth control pills, the pill. I was just studying this because I don't want my daughter on the pill, and I hope she doesn't take it. But there's the other thing. I was studying this. This kind of led to this. And I was like, no way. Not that she needs the pill anytime soon. But I understand this. Just saying, I just want to make that clear, Kara. I just want to make that clear. Just eventually she might, but I don't want to do that. But abortion and the pill, they're showing that those who've had an abortion, breast cancer is higher in their lives. Unbelievable. Just studying something. None of these diseases. If you had an abortion, if you have, God forgives you. Sisters, God forgives you. And brothers, if you force a woman to have an abortion, God forgives you. But understand this, that they have a higher risk for breast cancer. That's not even on the Christian websites to try to scare you out of having an abortion so you'll maybe give your baby up for adoption. That's one of the side effects that is listed with abortion. Higher incidences of breast cancer, because now they can medically determine that your body doesn't develop. You actually stop the process. You have to have that first child, and then your body develops and all that kind of stuff. And after that, those who do not have abortions and those who go on to longer breastfeeding have lower incidences of breast cancer the longer you breastfeed. I know there's articles out there about attachment parenting and all that kind of stuff, but do you understand this? Wet nurses, they used to wear their children till the age of 5. None of these diseases. None of these diseases. If you obey me, he just said, just obey me and do these things, and none of these diseases will come upon you. Not punishments. Avoid doing these things and the things that come upon the Egyptians. So let's look at the application for you and I here today. Proverbs 30, about the satisfaction. Are you discontented with the provision of the Lord? 2 things I have required of thee, denying them not before I die. Remove far from me vanity and lies. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with the food convenient for me, lest I be full and deny thee and say, who is the Lord? Or lest I be poor and steal and take the name of God, my God, in vain. Can you be discontent with God's provision? Application challenge, and I'll leave you with that here today. Every day for the next 2 weeks. Because next week is CKC commencement. So for 2 weeks, we're going to be back here in 2 weeks. We'll be out at the park. Read every day 1 Timothy chapter 6. 1 Timothy chapter 6. You want to know what it says? Read it. 1 Timothy chapter 6. And just like none of these diseases will come upon you if you obey me, do chapter 6. Try to live out. Maybe let this be the wilderness to your life right now. Read chapter 6, 1 Timothy chapter 6, and try to live that out. Not legalistically, but do those things. How could you be bitter at anyone else in this room or anyone else in your life? Isn't there enough in the Bible for you to work on your own plate? How could you be dealing with anything else in life? Look at 1 Timothy chapter 6. There's enough in your own life. You see, when people come to me for counseling, I never talk about the person who's not there. I'm not a problem-centered, sin-centered counselor and stuff. Let's look, you're here. Let's talk about you. What are you going to do? Read 1 Timothy chapter 6. Do this and keep a journal. And when I mean a journal, girls, you can keep a diary. Guys, I've got my cell phone, I've got a smartphone, and I got notes on there. I'll read through that, and I'll just make a note. That's a journal. Make any note that you want. You can go long 1,000 words. Not going to be my notes, all right? But I'll just say whatever I get that day reading through 1 Timothy. Let's do that together. 1 Timothy chapter 6, all right? And then share these findings with me. I love it when you share these things. Email them to me, all that kind of stuff. But we'll be back in a couple weeks. Let's do this for 2 weeks and watch what happens. Just like God said to the Israelites, do these things, obey me, and none of these diseases will come on you. Look at 1 Timothy chapter 6. Do that for 2 weeks. And then, hey, what? Here you go. Here's the deal I always make you guys. If after 2 weeks, there's nothing different in your life, it hasn't affected you, it hasn't changed you, hasn't motivated you, there is no change in whatsoever in your life, you've lost nothing. Just go back to the pathetic way that you were living. It made no difference in your life. But if it does, why stop? That's all I'm saying. I ain't saying. I'm just saying, take the challenge. All right? Lord Jesus, thank you for tonight that we can give you all. So, Lord, may we do that tonight. May we truly give you all. We praise you and we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. They're going to be passing out communion. If you'd go ahead and take it, hold on to it. Take the blessed oyster cracker and the grape juice and partake of it together as a memorial.